avoidance, and I also have Tourette Syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, and attention deficit disorder.
Go up to someone and say, hey, I have Tourette's, and they go, what the heck is that? No one really knows what it is, like, some like ADHD or OCD, they don't know what it is really, so it's hard to explain it to a whole bunch of people.
Tourette syndrome is a recently understood syndrome.
It is something that a person is born with. It's difficult sometimes to focus on what it is they're wanting to focus on because they're distracted or other people around them are distracted.
Voluntary vocal and motor tics that persist over time.
These tics, these movements, these crazy things that I would do, and it changed my life.
I think it would lead, what I feel and what I see is low self-confidence, the desperate wanting to be like the, whatever normal is, right? Because there's so many different people.
Just a really weird disorder that
a lot of complicated jargon that you're supposed to use as a doctor. Words like Tourette Syndrome and words like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. And kids' eyes just start to glaze over, like, what the heck does all that mean? And so the way that I tend to describe all of those disorders that often go along together in a simple way that's easy for kids to get is like being a leaky brake. That I tell kids, just like you need brakes on a car to stop the car, and if those brakes aren't working, then trouble will ensue. The same is true for people. That we've learned as doctors over the last 10 years, 15 years or so, that people have brakes too up here in the brains, and when those brakes are a little leaky, sometimes it's hard to stop.
As far as I know, students with this, people with this, have any manner of tics, for want of a better word. It could be a blinking eye, it could be something that they need to say over and over. When it gets to extremes, it's language that's beyond their control.
Especially because I with teenagers all the time. I think being a teenager is hard enough. I think someone with Tourette's, it's an added thing that they have to deal with. However, I believe that no one should be ashamed of it, and I believe that with more education out there, students would really benefit and know that they're not alone.
Tics.
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 Involuntary vocal and motor tics that persist over time.
Arm tics, leg tics, eye tics, eyebrow tics, all over the ballpark.
And use the itch scratch analogy because a lot of people don't they think when you're ticking it's almost like maybe a seizure.
Yeah.
And it's not. Almost the tick is almost like scratching the itch. And the real problem with Tourette's is completely invisible, which is this itch in your brain telling you shake your head, or whatever it is that you have to get rid of.
See, a lot of the time when you ask someone if they know what Tourette syndrome is, the average person is likely to only know it by, it's someone who swears randomly out of context, they give rude gestures all the time. And that's not what Tourette's is. That I get really upset about that because that's a stigma created by the media, created by people's judgments. People randomly shouting out swear words and doing rude gestures, that's called coprolalia and copropraxia respectively. And those only happen in seriously 10% of kids with Tourette's syndrome. It's such a small percentage, and most Tourette's kids have so many different tics.
Tics, they aren't completely random. Tics tend to, if you do something a lot and kind of the same way each time, so if something's frequent and something's stereotyped, it's more likely that it'll get the Tourette's attention and become a tic.
Tourette's comes with a number of different disorders. Many students with Tourette's also have struggles with attention deficit, obsessive compulsive disorders, a variety of different learning disorders. They may have math difficulties, reading comprehension difficulties. I think maybe all tied to the fact that they have trouble sustaining attention because their body is ticking and it takes their attention away from what they need to do.
So once I've told kids about leaky brakes, I'll tell them, okay, so if you have a leaky brake over your body, it's not quite stopping when you want it to. That's Tourette's. But there's other leaky brakes you can have too, that if you can't put the brakes on your attention and you're going all over the place, boy, what's that? Oh, that cloud looks like a squirrel, all this sort of stuff, that's a type of ADHD. If you're firing before you aim. So, everyone has dumb ideas sometimes pop in their head. You walk into a room, see a fan, you're like, should I stick my finger in the fan? I mean, of course that's a dumb idea, but if you don't have brakes over your impulses, you don't have a chance to think to yourself, that's a dumb idea. You're just, And that's another type of ADHD.
OCD, I see a very heavily dependent on routine. So you make the classroom not that I don't like making it spontaneous, but for people with Tourette's or with OCD, and they need routine. They need to feel comfort. They need to have no surprises coming at them. OCD. It could be as little as I've got some dirt on my pants and I need to go to the bathroom now to clean it. Okay, yes you can.
Obsessive compulsive disorder, that's really more a leaky brake over your thoughts. So you get a thought stuck in your head that just won't go away. For kids that don't have OCD that need to understand it, I often say it's like getting a song stuck in your head you really hate. But with OCD, it's like having 100 different annoying songs stuck in your head that they might be annoying, but they also might be making you feel guilty or freaking you out or making you worried or scared, whatever.
In the past, maybe people would have hid it, would have blamed themselves. It was a lot of guilt.
That often this is beyond their control, and I think that it used to be that students with Tourette's suffered.
Well, one of the things I find hardest for students is initially they feel very different and they're uncomfortable sharing the fact that they have Tourette's because it feels, I think there's a fear they might be rejected if other people knew they had Tourette's, so a lot of their time and attention is focused on holding in the tics.
Challenge would be
teacher has an opportunity to get to know that student really, really well.
I think educators are starting to figure out that these children aren't saying and or doing things to be difficult and obnoxious.
I don't think it matters if you have Tourette's or you have ADD or OCD or purple hair. It's our job as teachers to really learn who our students are.
I'll do everything that they need me to do. So it really comes from them. I need this from you. I need you to give me the notes. That's never happened. Whatever they've asked for, I can do that.
Being extremely patient would be a very good plus as a teacher.
Read through the Tourette's Foundation. There's a Tourette's for Educators handbook, and they should get some tips and ideas for that. I think another thing is just educating yourself about Tourette's, getting to know the students, finding out their comfort level, what would they like to do, do they need tic breaks, are there particular things that are stressful for them that kind of cause the tics to happen, because tics and anxiety go hand in hand.
I've had kids who just gave me a signal and would leave the room and needed to just give vent and could come back in, because I think it must be insurmountably hard to contain that, to master whatever is causing that.
I guess make your classroom friendly for people with Tourette's. I mean, many busy classrooms where kids are working in groups, kids can easily tic and it shouldn't be bothersome to anyone. Talk with the student, talk with their parents, and find out what's best for the student.
I think educating students themselves, if they have a student in the classroom and I don't like to see anyone being picked on or misread. Okay, so that one person may think is rude is actually probably not rude. It's part of, like, maybe they have to get some dirt off their hands right away, and maybe they push someone aside. So, well, okay, so we can work on that, but other people should know that maybe that is, at that moment, that person's greatest thing that they have to, situation they have to.
I think as soon as somebody gets to know somebody very well, those tics just become part of who we are, because we all have idiosyncrasies, and I think they just start to be something that is less and less distracting.
I think it's gotten very little attention. It's something that very few people really have a grasp on. It's about fear of the unknown. You know, the less people know, the more assumptions they make. And so I think it's kind of caught in that loop right now. As soon as you think you know everything, that's a pretty surefire indication that you don't.
Any disparaging words, I straighten people out and say, okay, just a minute, just a minute.
That historically that the things that we have believed about Tourette's or about anything else, you know, that we've taken it to such drama and such extreme, and that that's not really helpful. Right?
We've still got some serious learning to do.
Speak out, definitely. Yeah, just never just go, oh, hello, okay, bye. No, you just don't do that.
Tell a teacher.
Yeah,
Yourself.
Inform those in power, I guess.
We need to ensure that there is support for those students who are facing different challenges that we might not even be aware of. And it could be anything. It could be anything at all. It could be that your race, your sexual orientation, your religious background. We all carry so many different parts of who we are,
We like everything to be a muchness. We like this same. We don't like any child that's different. And I think, I hope that we're getting to that point where we celebrate those differences.
We're paying attention to, our attitudes, our behaviors towards one another. And I guess for me, it comes right down to respect and responsibility. We have a responsibility to know and understand things and to care about compassionately, to care about others. And then it's our job to be respectful of those challenges.
If someone comes forward and would like to work at the station, step one is to set aside any kinds of stereotypes. So if they say, for instance, they have Tourette's, great, that's interesting. I haven't had anybody here before with Tourette's, and work with them, get to know them, and in that way just get to know, A, that nobody's any different than anybody else, and B, that these are kinds of challenges that we all have our own things that we need to deal with on a daily basis. So it's just another way of really learning something, getting enlightened.
My biggest thing is it's a very small part of you. While you may have Tourette Syndrome, you're also a daughter, a friend, an artist, a musician, an athlete, and let Tourette's remain that small part of you. Learn about Tourette's, find out what things you can do to make it so it's not so much of an obstacle, and then go on with your life and concentrate on all the good positive things you have in life. And don't let it get in the way of achieving your dreams.
And everybody's to fight great battles. And some of our battles come in a chunk with a massive piece of grief or with a crisis in our family. And some of our battles come with disease where you're incapacitated for 3 weeks and in the hospital and getting leveled out and getting your system. That the more we learn to fight it and gain control, the stronger it makes us feel if we can just get through it. And every battle makes us that much stronger.
I think definitely parental support is very, very key, and I think, and then also counseling with it, so that everyone becomes a partner in the student's education, not just the student fending for themselves. I think the student would probably prefer if everyone understood and knew what they were going with. Not everybody, but lots.
I guess the biggest thing for me is no fear. Let's get ourselves to a place where we're not afraid to ask those delicate questions, if sometimes we think they're delicate questions or sensitive questions, but to build relationships with each other so that we can be comfortable learning more about one another, and that way facing a sense of deep respect for what everybody's dealing with, and then being supportive and inclusive about it. So losing the fear, because we can't learn if we're sitting in a place of fear.
It's really great when we can step out of our comfort zone, and stepping out of our comfort zone, I think, means exposing ourselves to different things and to different people that have different stories in their lives. And second of all, I think people really need to, it's easier said than done, but ultimately people just really need to be open-minded in situations where they're uncomfortable, and just not judge or not all of a sudden run away, because I think they're missing a lot if they do.
Kudos to you. I mean, not only for being where you are personally at this point. I mean, I sure as hell wasn't talking about my Tourette's or thinking about I was still at the point where I just wanted it all to go away, and I hadn't met anyone else with Tourette's, and here you are going out and seeking other folks. And